Man, do we have a really good topic for this session. We have a really good topic
Yeah,
for
why
this
don't you
session.
go ahead and do the intro for what we're going to be talking about today?
Well, I was actually wondering this. You mentioned just a minute ago, but I was wondering about that whole black and white thing. Okay, because I see some of these photographs from the who is it Eggleston, I think, or but back in the day, these black and white photos were like, man, that is amazing. How in the world did you get such a shot? I mean, my eyes are all into color. They don't, and I was wondering, well, how in the world am I supposed to know whether or not I need to take a color or what's best in this instance? Is it a color photograph, or do I need to maybe edit it in black and white, or how am I supposed to know when all I see is in color? Everything is in color. So you have to don't you have to look at things a different way, Chris, if you're gonna want to start, having an interest for black. I mean, there's some fantastic black and white images out there, man.
Yeah, that's a good question. You definitely have to see the world in a different way. Let me first start with saying I am no professional black and white photographer. I am dabbling in it just because I've recently been less inspired to pick up my camera. So what I decided to do, and we can talk about this a little further, is turn my image profile on my camera to black and white. So as I'm seeing things, I'm actually looking through the viewfinder or on the back monitor, the
Yeah,
LCD.
that's what you're seeing it in black and white right there on the camera then.
Right. And
Yeah.
sometimes, what you see on the camera and then you get it back into Photoshop or Lightroom or On One, whatever your post processing software is, it doesn't actually look the way that it looked on the camera. And, so I have some tips on that. But moral of the story, yeah, you definitely have to see light way different than you do in color. And sometimes it's easy to see in just light when there's heavy contrast. It's hard to see in just light when the colors are all the same, because our eyes play a trick on us. We see, let's say you're looking at a brick building and there's something interesting on let's say there's a red sign on the brick building. Well, red on burgundy bricks looks the same to us color wise, but the tonal value is going to look way different. And, the best way that I've learned to, kind of see through the color is by turning my image profile to monochrome on the back of my EOS R and
I can
R6.
definitely see how that would help you distinguish the tonal differences. Yeah, I can definitely see how that would help.
That's the big difference between black and white photography versus color is just the tonal difference. If you are looking at color, you're going to see different hues and saturation values, and there is a brightness value, but the only thing you see in a black and white image is where it falls from the brightest pixel to the darkest pixel, or from the brightest value to the darkest value that your camera can capture. And when you take photography back to black and white, what I'm finding, as I am still going through this experimental slope, if you will, is you learn more about exposure of an image and why exposure is so important.
If all you're doing is black and white photography.
Yeah. Well, even even more so for your color. Like it transitions to color photography, because and actually I'm doing some research right now on dodging and burning, and I plan to make
Oh yeah.
a tutorial just talking about the importance of being able to dodge and burn your images.
And that can really make a difference in your image,
Yeah.
and in black and white or color. I mean, I learned a little bit about dodging and burning, but never did consider black and white. For It's interesting that you said that, because I would never consider that, because I'm looking at a black and white image, okay, and the image is it's black and white. There's no color in it. Well, that part of the image is light, okay, and then you got the dark part now. So you're saying you have to know, or it's good to know if that needs more darkness in it in the editing process, if it will enhance it, or if it needs more light in the white part of it, if that would enhance the. But you're looking at it. See, and that's where I ask. There's a good YouTuber out there that I watch. I think I mentioned him before, Anthony Morgani. He's got a video out, and I haven't watched it. I didn't know we was going to talk about this, or I would have watched it earlier to get a little bit more better, you know. But he put out a whole video on how to see things in black and white to help your black and white photography. How to know, like say you're walking down the street, Chris. You're walking down. You got your camera, and you're going through the experiment. Okay, so tell me right now. Okay, you're out there with your camera now, and you see something. Is it going to be in black? Can you already tell if it's going to look good in black and white, or is it going to look good in color? But if you've got your camera already on monochrome, then you're going to take that.
Yeah, so that's a good question. It depends on what the subject is. If there's extreme contrast differences, then yeah, I can probably tell, like, okay, there's the brightest area, there's the darkest area. Here's what I think my composition is going to be. Now, as soon as I hold my camera up to whatever the subject is or the thing that I want to snap a photo of, my camera tells me, right then and there. So I do get to learn from that. But if I'm walking around without my camera, then what I would also do, or what I've been doing, is you can use a black and white filter on your smartphone. And the way
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can use a black and white filter on your smartphone, and you'll be able to see essentially things that are in black and white. But what I do want to make clear is black and white photography. It's not just black and white in the image. It's actually all about the gray. And, that sounds like super philosophical, but what I'm trying to say here is the darkest pixel or the darkest area of your image is one area, and then you have the brightest area, which is your whites. But the gradation of where your subject falls in between black and white is actually just that important. And that's where dodging and burning comes in, because you have to be able to identify what's the most important part of the image that I want the viewer to to pay attention to, and then what's the least important part, and then what can I enhance to make it look more interesting. And I think dodging and burning is the most important in black and white photography.
Well, even before that, don't you have to pick out a good? I mean, see, it goes back to me thinking, okay, I've got to pick out of this color world. But then again, first I'm gonna see it with my eyes, and I can't turn off color on my eyes. If I'm looking at it now, I can't on the camera, like you said. So I'm gonna have to be looking out, not through my camera lens, but with my eyes, and try to pick out something.
Yeah.
That you think, or that I think might be a good subject for a black and white photograph. How do you go about knowing that, Chris? What are like if it's going to be a good photograph to do in black and white? How do you know whether or not? Are you still learning how to do that?
Yeah, short answer is I'm still learning, but honestly, I don't think I would ever know until I get it back into the computer. And so, this is just
Ansel Adams is who I was trying to think of earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. Now Ansel Adams is a great photographer, or was a great photographer, however you want to look at him. And I'm never going to say that I'm comparing to his level, because I'm not trying to make work like Ansel or
no, but you
Adams.
have to.
I'm making work
absolutely,
like me. And
absolutely.
so,
but don't you have to know what? I mean, you have to know what would look good in black and white, just like he would. I mean, does that require?
I don't even think he knew what was going to look good in black and white.
That's probably a good point. He may not have.
And I say this, kind of tongue in cheek. The reason why I don't think he knew is because he still had to develop the image, and then he would dodge and burn his images to make the photo that we would actually see. So, what I, I don't want to be reckless and say just go snap photos and then turn them black and white and see what works. But
Or you can.
I
You
also,
could do that too,
right.
though. I
I
guess.
also do want to say just go take a bunch of photos, turn them black and white, remove the saturation from the image, and see what
Yeah.
happens.
Another interesting
Pixels
thing
are free.
Another interesting thing you said at the beginning was your inspiration. You've kind of lost. You've kind of been like wondering. Well, I need. And maybe it's the time of year or something. And everybody gets like that. I've recently started doing something. Well, what can I do? To make photography my enjoyment of it more. Because I'm like in a lull right now. I don't know what to photograph, Rod. So thinking of something outside of what you normally do, like black and white. I wouldn't specifically go out. I may now, after talking with you about it, and say, hey, you know what? Why not? I mean, like you said, what about 20 seconds ago? Pixels are free.
Yeah, yeah. You know, when I get into inspirational slumps, I do a few different things. And this time I just decided black and white photography. Again, I'm not trying to become some world renowned black and white photographer or artist, but there's something to be learned in every genre of photography. And that's essentially what I want to be able to share with the audience is don't worry about if it's a good or a bad black and white.
Yeah.
Just make it and then say, what did I learn about my camera? What did I learn about light? What did I learn about composition? And there's something about when you take color away, you really start to see leading lines. You start to see texture.
Oh, yeah.
You start to see the gradation in light because, light itself is a compositional tool in many images. You just start to see those things when you take away the color. But if you work in color primarily, I'm not saying, everyone should just convert to black and white photography. But if you work in color primarily, I think you're going to see the largest benefit going back to color work after you spend some time in a black and white area.
What have you? What it like? What's standing out in your mind now since you've started doing this? Is it just? I mean, how many? Like a week, 2 weeks? You've been kind of like really focusing on black and white.
So I've actually been focusing on black and white since October.
Okay.
For reference, it's now
Couple of
December
months now.
6th,
Yeah.
the date that we're recording this episode. And I was just less inspired starting in October, which is also another reason why I haven't been posting to the channel, just because I haven't been creating and I haven't been inspired to do so. So what I did is I have some magazines that I bought years ago, and one of them is How to Make Dramatic Black and White Photography. And I said, you know what? Let me just study this. And, I became a student of photography again, as opposed to an instructor of photography, which is what I primarily do on my channel, where I'm teaching how to edit photos. So, I think part of it for me, YouTube creating burnout is a real thing. And I'm not saying it in like some like, woe is me, my mental health is bad. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I was just not inspired to create photos, which is the whole reason why I started the channel. And because of that, I decided not to create content because I was like, well, I'm not getting any enjoyment out of creating the content because I'm not enjoying creating my own photos. So I wanted to take some time and just go back and, I've been on I guess now we're almost at a 3-month hiatus. But it's been good.
You probably have several hundred black and white images ready to share with us. Then I'm anxious to see because I'm reading a little article here on Adobe's website.
Okay.
And it says black and white photos are a helpful way for beginners to learn the art of photography. Okay, now listen to this next part. By eliminating, and I was just talking about this, by eliminating the complexity of color, you can better understand your camera and explore how light, aperture, ISO, and shutter speed affect each other by eliminating the complexity of color.
Yeah.
That says it all right there. I mean, that's what's always been like confusing to me. Well, how do you know if you can't see in black and white? How do you know? I mean, all you see is in color. How do you know what a good image will be in black and white? How do you know what if it's going to be good or not? But
And can I also say that that's very subjective?
yeah,
because
photography, the whole art of photography,
yeah,
anything creative that we do is very subjective. Editing photos is subjective.
yeah,
But
because I've
dodging and
seen some photos from Ansel Adams, his black and whites, and I was like, man, that is not impressive. And
I'm telling you,
and
yep.
that's not to say that Ansel Adams was a terrible photographer, because he has some great work, and
yeah.
I think we can all relate to the fact that we can do really good at some things and have like a piece of work that's just phenomenal, and then on the other end have a piece of work that's kind of blah. And
You don't want no one you don't want no one to see it
yeah, and if I'm being honest,
or hear it.
a
Yeah.
lot of my black and whites right now are on that lower spectrum of kind of blah, and I'm okay with that. In fact, I enjoy making bad images.
You know what I've been doing lately? This is something that I've been, and it has to do with maybe why I haven't been really inspired a whole lot lately. I've been on Vero. We're both on Vero.
Yeah.
The photo. They just finished up the November creative challenge, and I was posting a photo a day there,
Yeah,
and that just ended, and December the 1st rolled around, and I'm going, oh, I haven't got no. What am I going to do now? So, and then I started thinking, well, you love photography. You're not just going to let it drop and just go nowhere. You're going to get out and do something. And then some photographer came up with he uses the acronym WAKE, WAKE, and I wrote
Okay.
down what they each mean. But to me, one of the things that he mentioned doing was just taking photos of everything.
Yeah.
If you see just, and you said that before, just, like, well, it kind of relates to what you said earlier. Pixels are free. And then he mentioned a project, so this project you're on now, black and white photos. Well, this guy mentioned, and I can't think of what his YouTube channel is, but he mentioned taking photos out in nature of letters, alphabetical letters.
Yeah. I think I've seen that video.
So I'm going out. I just yesterday I went out for a bit, but again, this cold weather in the Northeast, I'm very, very, very. I got chilly bones. I get cold real quick. But I went out anyway. It's been relatively nice. So I go out and I'm starting to looking out in nature, just around close to the house here, for letters, shapes of branches that make a certain letter. I'm starting. Well, that opens your eyes to looking for things that you've never looked for before.
Right. Yeah. So I know of a lot of challenges like that. And when you incorporate that with black and white, that works out really well. And let me just also encourage anyone who is like, you know what, you guys are just making this way too complicated. All I want to do is take pictures. Yes, that's the point.
By
Go
all
take
means,
pictures.
yeah, go take pictures.
If you look at a doorknob and you're like, you know what, I want to do a series on doorknobs, go for it. Maybe you'll look at keys and you'll say, I want to take photos of all different shapes and sizes and ages of keys.
Yep. Do it.
Do whatever you want to do as long as it's legal. Like, don't be, a pervert taking photos and, creeper like that. But like, just use your camera, make images, and go ahead and get those into a editing software. This is just my personal preference. I know that there's some people that are like, you should never edit your images. Yeah, good for them. Don't, I'm not going to tell them that they have to.
I love editing, though. I do.
Right.
You don't have to. You don't have to edit your.
Yeah, I like the creative post-production more than I do the capturing of an image. And, I've learned that about myself because I've been exploring in a few different photo editing apps, from mobile apps like Snapseed, which is free from Google.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
I've been working on my iPhone, just taking photos with my iPhone and playing with
I've been doing that too, Chris, because
the
it's right there. Yeah.
yeah. And then I've been in Luminar Neo a lot. I've been inside of Lightroom.
Love that. I love that app. I
I've
do.
been inside of Affinity Photo.
Yeah.
I'm debating on picking up a new program called Pixelmator Pro.
I've heard of that. I think I heard you mention that at one point. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have it on the tablet, which, it's a great program, but I'm thinking about getting it for the Mac for a few different reasons. But the point is, one, I am not trying to encourage anyone to go out there and just start buying a bunch of programs. I've collected many of these over the years, and I budget for the upgrade fees every year, so that way I can get these programs. So
Sometimes I don't budget for them, but anyway, yeah, it's best if you can budget for things. Yeah.
yeah. And now that I'm monetized on YouTube, some of that monetization actually covers a portion of me getting the software, which
Absolutely,
is a
yeah.
huge benefit.
Yeah, absolutely is.
Because I'm not pulling it out of my own pocket now.
Right.
And
Now, here's another thing in this little Adobe thing, and that has to do with what we were saying. Well, how do you know what's going to be a good photo or a good black and white? Train your eye is the headline to this paragraph. We're used to seeing the world in full color. It can be difficult to understand how those colors translate into shades of gray. So you mentioned that just a minute ago. Shades of gray. It's hard to get your brain to know that a really bright red is going to come out pretty much the same as that deep blue in your final image. It is. Yeah, so different subjects train your eye in new ways. Black and white portrait photography is another great way. And they're showing a bunch of black and white images by not a bunch, but several black and white images by, they don't even say who the photographer is, but
yeah,
they're gorgeous, man. They're really, really beautiful photos. I mean, no color at all, and you can see, you clearly see a main subject, and my eye's not even missing the absence of color because the black and white in the photo, that's all it needs. It don't need to have any color.
Yeah, and here's what I'll say about black and white. If you want a more immersive feel to the subject matter that you're photographing, photograph it in black and white or convert it to black and white. And, some of the YouTube gurus out there, they're going to tell you should have intentionally photographed for black and white. And I don't disagree. Like, if you are out in the field or you're getting ready to take a photo and you're like, you know what, I think I want to make this black and white in post-production, then I recommend you do one of two things. Either one, shoot it in color, shoot it in black and white, with raw files, you can always convert them to whatever, because to the best of my knowledge, all of the raw files, they are captured in color. And then,
even though you change that, even though it's in black and white on your camera, that color is still there. I heard that too.
The color information is still there. And I'll speak for On One because I'm familiar with how On One handles my images whenever I photograph in black and white on my camera, which is what I'm seeing. Like if I hit the little the playback and I'm looking through the photos on my camera, they're in black and white. But as soon as I upload them to On One converts them back to color.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. It's great. I love it.
You love it doing that? So don't you have to go back in?
I don't. That was sarcasm.
You would be in sarcastic. Okay.
But what I've done is I've created my own black and white presets that gets me to a base edit. Okay. So, now with the JPEG, the color profile is baked in. So if you shoot raw plus JPEG, you'll be able to retain that black and white. Yeah. And that's what I do now is I shoot raw plus JPEG when I shoot black and white, because I know that On One's going to revert the original or the raw file.
Wonder why they do that.
Yeah, and I have no idea.
There's no
But
setting you can change in it or anything that you know of. Or
not that I'm aware of. But
well, the
what I can do is look at that JPEG though
yeah,
and see like, okay, well, this is how much contrast, like what I was inspired when I was looking at it on the back of the camera. I can say, hey, this was what I was inspired by. And then I can edit the raw file using the JPEG as my reference image, if that makes sense. So that
yeah, it does.
I'm
It makes
getting
sense. Yeah,
close to that. Now,
yeah.
if you photograph in like Lightroom does not convert it from black and white to color. So if you photograph in black and white and that's the color profile that you chose on your camera, and I'll also speak for Canon CR3 files because I don't know how Nikon files work with this, the NEF files, or any other camera, but I have a EOS R and a R6, and no matter which one of those cameras, on one will convert that to a color image, even if I shot it in black and white, if it's a raw image. So
Interesting why it does that.
yeah,
The contribute I just see the names of these people in Adobe, that article I was reading. I should mention it was Tina Triforos, Ariel Wilson, and Adam Long is the three who are writing about this. I just Googled black and white photography and this came up. Black and white photography tips for beginners. That's what they. But I had noticed in Lightroom, they have a ton of black and white presets, and
yeah,
it was just recently that I went through and I was just curious. Well, what does this one do? What does that one do? And my interest was piqued, just
okay.
changing them in that respect.
What about
Enough
it?
so enough
Like what
so that
piqued you about it? Yeah, I'm sorry.
well, yeah, how it there's so many different shades of black and white, so to speak. You can make. I mean, it's just amazing what you can do so much with them, and I didn't realize that before till I seen all those presets in Lightroom, and
Okay.
I clicked on them, and it was like, man, this one makes the shadows stand out more, or this one makes the whole image change tone. This one changes the tone of the image, and this one makes it look more like cold or something, and this one warms it up. Just the differences in that respect. The tonal differences, it's just not like you mentioned too. There's just more to it than just black and white. It's the
Yeah.
lights and the darks making all kinds of shades of gray in the image that I never realized until I started looking at putting those presets on just a regular old photograph.
Yeah, and there's more than just like we say. We've been talking about black and white. One of the common themes that we like to talk about is monochrome whenever we mention black and white.
Yeah.
And monochrome really just means a singular color with different shades in the variation from the darkest of that color to the brightest value of that color. So sepia tone images,
There
those
you go.
are similar to black and white, except for there's like this brownish tint to them, and
Didn't they used to be really a big thing back in the day? Sepia images,
Uh,
or
I'll be honest. Yeah, no, I think they were, as cameras were starting to, the companies were manufacturing different types of film that allowed you to do certain things. And whenever you develop the image, I'll be lying to you if I told you I knew exactly. But overall, the sepia tone is, just one of those things. You can even do like a blue silver look, uh, where as the blue starts to fade to a brighter version of blue, it almost becomes silver. So,
oh, then there you go. There's another form of, well, it's not really black and white, a
it,
infrared.
no, it's monochrome. It's still considered monochrome
Yeah, infrared
because
though can be just can be just a bunch of black and white and make it white enough to make it look silver.
I don't think that's how infrared works.
I don't know how it works. I was just
Yeah,
seeing some images about this guy's trans. He got a camera and he had it made specifically to take infrared.
right. Yeah. So infrared photography is actually it's a different light span than what we can see with our own eyes. It's invisible to our
Yeah, he
eyes.
mentioned a filter you can get to put on your camera, like I think he said a R32 filter or something.
Right.
You
You
can
put it on
buy it.
the
Yeah, put it on
lens.
your lens. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just looked up the definition of monochrome,
Yeah.
and it says a picture, especially a painting. Don't say nothing about a photograph done in different shades of a single color.
Right. So that's the part that I was trying to articulate.
Yeah.
Done in a single shade or particular shades of a single color.
Yeah.
So, you can turn that into a photo and make a photo monochrome.
Or it said, there's a couple. The state of being in a single color.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
but it's not the same as just saying that's a black and white image.
Right. Because black and white is there's no color added to the image at all. But as
Yeah.
soon as you go into, a purple monochrome, well, the primary color is purple. It's just different shades of purple.
Yeah. They're showing I mean, it's just interesting looking up these. There's some images, and actually this one looks like it's in sepia.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And that there's a ton of different
What have you
avenues.
what have you been photographing? I mean, as far as a subject, I mean, are you just picking out a tree or a car or a
So most of it's actually
landscape?
most of it's been inside our home. So I've
Oh,
photographed
inside.
door hinges.
Okay.
I've photographed food, which food doesn't look good in black and white, but play
gonna
with it,
say.
try it out, see.
Yeah, you might make
see if you
mashed
enjoy it.
potatoes. Mashed potatoes are white. You get black beans. You get some beans that are, I mean, black-eyed peas are.
Yeah,
Put them together,
And-
it's still going to look good to eat.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like you can't make a good black and white image of food
Yeah.
because there was a photographer who photographed a pepper with a black and white camera like a long time ago. This is before color cameras exist. But the point is,
I think I know the photographer you're talking about. He photographed peppers, and they were in black and white, and some of them looked amazing.
yeah. So I photographed my dog, who happens to be a black dog. So it's always fun photographing a black dog in black and white because you don't know what you're going to get based off of the lighting. But then you start to understand more about lighting because my subject is dark, but there's details in his fur. So it's like, okay, well, how can I get the
absolutely.
light to expose his fur in a way that is interesting? And his fur has
Yeah.
texture. In black
I
and
got
white
a black
images, you
cat.
can pull
I got
that
a black
texture
cat. I
out.
could try that. Yeah, I got a black cat. I could try that same method on the.
I've photographed silverware, candles. A lot of stuff inside of the home, light switches, light bulbs.
So
It's nothing fancy. It's just me messing around
inside.
in the house because it's cold outside.
Yeah, well, it's going to get colder.
Yeah, well,
Like
and
yesterday
I'm
when I
gonna
went
stay
out
inside.
Yeah, and I'm going to stay inside. Yesterday when I went out, looking for alphabet letters in the wild letters out in nature, and I had just a light jacket, and I did have gloves on, but we haven't hit the teens very much at all.
No, we haven't.
And it's like, okay, I can at least stand to be outside maybe half an hour maybe or something, close around the house. But I have in mind, and I'm going to do it, I'm not going to wait for warm weather. And this goes back to what you hit on earlier when you said, trying to find inspiration. If something's not inspiring you, or if you're relying on like a lot of times I'll sit in my chair in front of YouTube and just hours on end, and it's like I get zombified. Okay, well, get up out of
Yeah.
your chair, get your camera, get up out of your chair, get your camera, start taking pictures. And I follow a YouTuber he lives over in England, United Kingdom, and he said he's doing a daily Advent video once a day through the holidays here. And
Okay.
the other day, his first one, December the 1st, I think, he posted about the climate, and I'm not going to be, I ain't going to be no politician and talk politics about it, but I do know something's happening to the climate. And and he says, if you can do, there's something you can do yourself, even though you think there may not be something you can do. As an individual, sometimes I think, well, I'm just one person. What in the world can I do? I'm on the downhill slide of life right now anyway. What can I do? Well, you can start by driving less, saving on your gas, saving those emissions. Limit your excursions to maybe an hour away from the house. Well, there's tons of places I can go away an hour or less from my house with my camera. And I'm going to find some of those places, and I'm not going to let the cold weather, like it usually does. I say that now, but who knows what could happen.
Wait until we get into the colder months.
And the teens,
yeah, into the teens, and then we'll have that conversation. We'll be checking in on TC if he's getting out in that cold weather.
Ask TC about it at that time, and I'll make up a big lie.
There you go. Like, I've been out in the cold.
But you know what I mean? Finding is some place that's like less than a couple blocks to walk. If it's a good trail and I'm warm, I'm dressed. Of course, you dress appropriate, and I'm warm, and I don't have to walk a mile, a couple of blocks maybe to get it, and the wind's not blowing, and I've got some hot chocolate in my thermos beside me. And I've got an electric blanket on me. You get battery powered, stuff all the time.
Yeah.
In other words.
So you really are planning to go out into the cold?
I am really planning to go. Yes, I'm planning on finding places out. There's a Moraine State Park close by. And they've got trails there. I've never been there. See what kind of trails they are, to see if I want to get better at my landscape photography too, and maybe some of those images will look good in black and white. This is a black and white season, November here in the Northeast, the sun disappears. There's hardly any color left in the landscape. It's all gray.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm looking at getting into more tabletop type of photography. I really enjoy macro photography. There's something about looking at something small.
You mentioned something about a nice lens that you said you might be.
Oh, yeah. I got the Canon RF100 macro.
You did get it?
Yeah. When we last talked, I had already purchased it. I was just waiting for it to get here.
So that's what I mean. You have it in your possession now.
I do. And, topic for another day. But I thought that this lens would satisfy my itch or not even my itch. It would help with my lack of inspiration, because I was like, well, now I got this 100mm and I'll go do more macro photography.
Yeah.
And you can't see it, but just outside of frame, there's a window over here to my side. And that's where my camera's sitting with that lens on it. And I haven't used it since the day I used it for 2 days after I bought it. And other than that, it's been sitting.
For shame, Chris.
Yeah. And
like you said, it's
the
cold
reason
outside,
for that
though.
is because I've been using my phone to actually take some photos. And Scott Kelby recently did a video with B&H talking about using your iPhone for travel photography. And, I've been getting more interested in using my iPhone for photography. And that's
absolutely.
why
I have
I'm
that.
just
I'm the
messing
same
around.
way. Yeah, I'm the same way. But what I'm finding is, holding it. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to hold the thing. And then especially if you want to, is there a button you push and it will flip it will turn you around where you get the front facing camera. If you want to do like a vlog type of thing and show your face every now and then, you'll want to flip it around, or you just turn the camera around. But
Are you talking about like doing a video?
Or both, photos and videos, yeah.
Yeah, I'm only doing photos with my phone. Like,
I'll do some
don't get me
video.
wrong, I do videos like when my kids are doing stuff, but
Oh, you don't. Oh, see, well. You got kids. Mine are all gone. So I'm finding that. Yeah, I like to do video too. I like to
Yeah.
to upload a vlog every now and then, and just yeah, that's something else. You can do
Yeah.
that in black and white though. You can video yourself. I got this real cool app. Oh, it's on my phone for video, but it's like you're videoing using one of the old cameras from the 40s.
Okay.
You
That
can
sounds
add
awful.
you can add yeah, you can add flickering, you can add the light streaks coming through through the film. It's just yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. Nah, I don't know. I don't like I don't like old school as much. I like that like very tailored and it's very niche.
Yeah, I see what you're
But
saying.
it's funny how we want to take these expensive devices and turn them into these old school
Yeah.
artifact type
That's
of
an old app.
devices.
It's a real old app too. It's been
Yeah.
around for a while. I've had it forever. But I was going to ask you something about your black and white photography. You have images chose that you're going to maybe do a little tutorial on them or some editing, or are you still trying to find the best way to shoot them first, and then, or all of the above, probably?
Actually, I didn't plan on using any of these in my content.
Oh, okay.
And it's not like because I'm embarrassed of them, and I may later on down the line.
Yeah.
But it goes back to my point that I stopped making content because I wanted to get back to making photos
I see. Yeah.
and enjoying the editing process and
Yeah.
just what I enjoyed doing. And, will I share some of those? I'm sure I will because I've made some photos that I am pretty proud of. But here's what I've learned early on in photography. Create for yourself. If you're a creative, create for yourself and don't create for other people to appreciate your work. Because unfortunately,
Yeah.
very few people are going to appreciate your work the same way that you do.
I just came across an article about that too recently.
Yeah. So,
Well, it has to do with what that YouTube gentleman I was telling you about, who mentioned the three letters WA or W. Yeah, it was WAKE. Wake. He
yeah,
mentioned. Yeah, don't if you're shooting for someone, if you're shooting for the Instagram likes, and I used to feel that way, man. I'll never have like you get
right.
on there and there's like 10,000 likes on this one photograph, and you're thinking to yourself, man, I could take a photo 10,000 times better than that one, and he's got 1 million likes.
Yeah.
But
and,
yeah, you've got to get out of that attitude.
And yeah, and I don't know if anyone has ever gotten anything over Instagram because their photo had 10,000 likes or 100,000 likes or whatever, because it's a social media platform.
Yeah.
And social media is good. Like if you want to share your images with people, then it's a good way of being able to do that. But don't let that be your driving force of creating because it's a very empty return.
Yeah, it's a
because
zero return. You get
Well-
zero return on it.
Well, what I mean is, if I put a photo up today and I get 1,000 likes on it, and then I put a photo up tomorrow and I get 100 likes on it, I'm going to be devastated if I'm putting all of my investment in the fact that the only way that I can validate my work is if other people say that my work is good.
And some of us
And-
are like that. I mean, not to a big extent, but beginning when I was first starting and first sharing my stuff, and I'm thinking, well, I have to have this to be that good, or I need this to be that good, or I need this many likes so people will recognize what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be a very, very, very dark rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah. But, the next thing that I do plan to do is abstract photography in black and white. That's my next experiment. And if you're not familiar with abstract photography, it's when you photograph something and someone's like, man, what is that?
I have
Well-
I have a couple of paintings by my older brother that are on the Salvador Dali type of paintings. He was a surrealist painter.
Okay.
The melting clocks. I don't know if you. That's one. Of
Oh
those,
yeah.
yeah. That's surrealist or abstract.
Yeah. Well, no, that's surrealist.
Well, you
Abstract
look at
is,
it and you go, "What is that?" It's
well,
a
if you can
melting
make out
clocks.
that it's a melting clock, then it's not abstract.
Well, you're going to
Abstract,
wonder why the clock is melting. That makes it abstract.
no,
Do
that
you
just
ever-
makes it odd.
Now we're getting definite. We need to do definitions of what is abstract and what is.
Yeah,
It's still art, though. No matter what, it's art.
I mean, you're more than welcome to look up the definition, but I believe abstract is anything that you're not sure what it actually is
When you look at it,
when you look at it, right? Like you can appreciate it and you're like, I can tell that that's something, but I'm not sure what it is.
and I'm not sure I want to know what it is.
Sometimes you don't, and that's what makes it abstract. Like when you take a photo of a glass building with clouds in it, like you can tell like that's a building, but you can't identify what building it is.
Yeah.
And, but
Okay.
I could be wrong.
A abstract disassociated from any specific instance.
Yeah. So that means that you can't actually define what it is.
Here's another one: expressing a quality apart from an object. Now
guess.
there's one to think about, Chris.
I think
Okay,
that's
say you photograph an object and you got your camera and you're thinking I'm going to be an abstract photographer.
yeah,
You
yeah.
photograph an object, but then you got to try to edit that photo and express something other than what the object is. And if you can do that, then you're an abstract photographer.
I guess. Yeah, maybe. You know,
Yeah, I know, you really.
I have this knife. It's a pocket knife or whatnot, and there's this. I don't know what you would call it, but there's like some texture on the side of it. And what I plan to do is photograph this with my macro lens, and it's a black knife, so it's easy to turn this black and white.
Yeah.
At least I think in my mind. So then it's all about the light, and I'm gonna try and turn this into a really interesting looking thing that you're like, what is that? And in my opinion, abstract photography, you should walk away disappointed that you couldn't figure out what it was. Like that's, in my opinion, that's what abstract photography is.
I can agree with that, but I wouldn't say walk away disappointed.
Yeah, I'm trying to drop off disappointment.
Yeah, just walk away with scratching your head.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Like, man,
It is WAKE. That's what it is. And the W, he says, what is worth shooting? Now, does this have anything to do with black and white? Well, I don't know. It could. It could have something to do with black. And then the
why
A.
don't you share it and then I'll turn it into something about black.
Yeah,
and white.
okay. The W, what is worth shooting? And then he lists some exercises, like what I was telling you to. Photo letters found in nature. Go out and take some photographs of some things like a stick that looks in the shape of an X or something. And then he said, change your perspective. And I've heard that before. You have too. Either get down low and photograph something, or get. And then the A was awareness. Pay attention to the familiar. Now that would be what you just said about that knife. A knife is familiar. Everybody knows what a knife is. But when you start paying attention to something that is familiar, like on that knife, paying attention to that pattern that's in the handle, there you go. And then the K is keep shooting anything.
There you go. Just
Keep
push the
shooting.
shutter button.
Yeah, because pixels are free, right?
Yeah.
It
I
says-
mean, once you buy the camera and you have an SD card, until you fill it up, the only cost of pixels is saving the final image to another hard drive.
Yeah, or having a
and once you fill
computer. Or having a fast computer that you can edit fast enough in.
Yeah. Well, even if you don't want to edit, you still have to have a place to store your photos.
Absolutely. You better have a place to store
And
them.
if you want to just make a bunch of Gmail accounts and use Google Drive, you
Because
get
they give you
15 gigabytes.
Yeah, they give you 15 gig. The another thing he said is be reactful and I like this one, be reactful and instinctual. You've heard the feeling, go by your instinct, go by your gut feeling if it's. And then the E says it all, experiment and explore. Think to yourself, what happens if I try this?
Yeah.
That's
That
great
makes
advice.
sense.
I mean, yeah, it's great advice for indoor. You can take this and, is this Apple Pencil worth shooting? I don't know.
There you go.
This-
Just shoot it anyway.
Yeah, shoot it and see.
Yeah.
It may sell. Apple might see it somewhere. If you share it, they might see it and go, "Oh, that TC's a mighty fine photographer. Look how he took a picture of our Apple Pencil. Let's give him a call right quick."
Yeah, and I would also say that you don't have to photograph for sharing your images.
Oh, that's
Photograph
true
for
too.
yourself.
Yeah, that's a great
Photograph
point.
because you want to actually photograph. If your intent is I have to share this image, then I'm not saying you're missing the point, because if that's your intent for photographing and that's what's fun for you, then go for it.
Yeah.
I will tell you though, you're going to be disappointed at some point if that's the only driving factor.
Absolutely, I
Of
agree
picking
with
up
that.
a camera because I want a bunch of people to put hearts on my pictures.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. Like, posting to social media is a very empty return, because you're literally turning over the value of your image and of your art to someone else's subjective opinion.
Absolutely,
So
that's right.
You have to be
great
proud
point.
with the art that you make for yourself when you take a photo. Black and white, color, monochrome, sepia tone, whatever it is, you have
Yeah.
to be happy with what you're producing and say, okay, this is good work. And if you're not happy, then ask yourself, what isn't good about this particular image? And how can I make it better? Why don't I like this work? Instead of just saying, I hate this, and then deleting it and walking away from the event or from the craft. If Michael Jordan, and I don't know if anyone knows this or not, but Michael Jordan never made his high school basketball team, as the story goes. But he ended up moving on to be the greatest basketball player of all time.
I
If
didn't
he
know
had
that,
given
but
up
that
when
don't
he didn't make
surprise
his
me.
right,
Oh,
if he
yeah,
didn't give,
yeah.
if he had given up when he didn't make his basketball team, we don't know if Michael Jordan would have ever made it to the NBA. Well, I'll say
Absolutely.
he wouldn't. Right. The point
He
is,
may not have ever got that.
you have
chance.
to say, you have to go and improve upon the things that make you not like what you came up with. Get better. Challenge yourself. I like the experiment, right? Ask the what
Yeah.
if. What if I did take a photo of a colander with a blue light shining through it over a Lego man?
Yeah.
I have no idea what that's going to look like. I can imagine what I think it's going to look like. But until I go and do it and take the photo, and then I have a photo to show, like, hey, look, this is what it looks like when you take a colander, put a blue light behind it, and a Lego dude underneath it.
And it's abstract.
Well, yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be.
It could
Take
very
blurry
well
photos.
be. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Take blurry photos.
Yeah, and
photos.
actually, that is a note that I wanted to share about black and white photography. Take blurry photos. This sounds silly, but I did this early on in my photography journey when I was just learning about images all on themselves. One, blurry photos are abstract by default, because you're probably like, what the heck did I just take a photo of?
I just found one. Somebody took one of me actually. I'm blurry in it, and I think it looks kind of cool. I used it for my
Yeah.
Facebook profile picture because, just like you said, blurry. It can be very interesting sometimes.
Yeah. But when you take a blurry photo and you turn it black and white, you're literally seeing the transition of light to dark.
I might turn that one into black and white just to see what it would. Yeah, that'd be interesting
Yeah.
to see what that one would look like. It really would.
Yeah. So, go outside, take a photo of a tree, make it blurry intentionally,
Yeah.
and then turn it black and white. And you're going to see the transition from the darkest pixel to the brightest pixel in your image. And this is going to help you understand more about how light actually works
That's what
and
it
how
said in
the
that
light was
Adobe
hitting that
article.
tree.
Yeah, it said they hit on that exact point in that Adobe article. I was just,
Right.
yeah.
But if you don't, if you do it while the image is, and you can kind of fake this if you add a Gaussian blur and put like maybe 8 pixels of blur, maybe 9 pixels of blur, depending on, what your resolution of your camera is. You don't need a whole lot of blur, like, because eventually you're just going to turn your image like to a big blah of gray.
Yeah,
You
but
still
that
want
could
to be
be
able to
abstract
kind of
art.
make out.
That could be
That
abstract
could
art.
be. You could make abstract art by blurring an image. But the technique that I want to teach here, or at least encourage you to go try, is take a photo of an image, or take a photo where it's out of focus. And I'm not talking like soft focus where you
Yeah,
just barely
right.
miss
Just
focus. I'm
purposely
talking
take
about
something out of focus. It's almost completely out of focus on purpose.
right
Do it with a
on
purpose.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yes, on purpose. Take a photo that is blurry or out of focus, and then put it into your photo editing app, and you can just see how the light transitions, and it teaches you about how light really works and really how your camera captures light. Because once you learn how your camera captures light, you'll be a lot better of a photographer. So that's what I will share with everyone tonight on this episode of Negative Exposure. Let's go ahead and land the plane on tonight's
All right.
episode.
Thank you,
And,
everybody, for watching. And yeah, leave some comments and questions, and we appreciate it.